Down in there you can see our first flower for a transplant. So it's 5th of August, and that is the first and only flower on a transplant so far. That's the one in 2-2 on row 2. And over here we have our first noticeable pest on, this is 212, row 2. You can see a skeletonized new leaf up here by the terminal bud. And if we swing on over here on the back side of this square, you can see some caterpillars, or maybe sawflies. I haven't looked too closely, but these are very early instar. And they're all over this square, and they're down inside of this one, which you can't really see. But that's our first obvious leaf pest that I've seen so far, and I'm going to be squishing those guys to death. One other thing I want to show you is, that is a deer track. There's a buck, no less. And this little bugger got into the cotton patch sometime over the weekend, because I came back and those two ends of the fence right there were both knocked into the plot. So, and that whole corner over there was busted. So somebody tried to jump this fence, fell in. I don't even know how he got in here, but there's his tracks. It appears that's how he got out. Must have, because this was busted that way. So he must have jumped in somehow. I don't know which end he cleared the fence on. But he came all the way through here, ran out that way, hit the fence, broke it, and then ran away. So that's annoying, but he doesn't seem to have eaten anything. Grass is always greener. So I just got done measuring the plants, and that guy over there on row 4 is the 4th tallest plant out of the whole plot. It's the tallest plants out of rows 4, 3, and 1, which is kind of crazy because once again that was the control row where they were not irrigated or fertilized. And the next 3 tallest plants are over here on row 2, and it's 8, 7, and 1. And they're all at 41 or 42 inches, and that guy is 39 3/4. I think the next tallest plant's over here on 3, and it's like 39.5. So they're all the tallest plants are all within 2 inches of each other, which is a nice thing. One thing I'm noting is that fecundity is way higher on 2 and 3, which makes sense because they're fertilized. And fruit production takes a lot of macronutrients. And over there on row 4, fecundity is rather low. That may be the 4th tallest plant, but it is far from being the 4th most fecund plant. And you know, they did have a later start as far as their maturity goes, so that does contribute, but that may just be that that's a run-out plant, potentially a hybrid. It looks exactly like the other ones, and knowing where it was planted, I'm fairly certain that it's not a hybrid, but it might have some faulty genetics going on, even though it is particularly good grower in poor soil conditions, so we'll have to watch that guy. Alright, so as you can see, I just got finished weed eating around the cotton patch. So the weeds were getting a bit tall and they were probably affecting growth rate a little bit. And I did say I was done weeding, but that did not mean I was done getting rid of weeds. So I came out here with the string trimmer and just destroyed all of this undergrowth that was coming up and everything that was coming up around the plot. So that stuff is competing for water and nutrients and sunlight with the cotton, so it needs to get gone. And when you're in the middle of a cotton field, typically that's not going to be an issue. And I've learned with this plot that I tried doing a 6 and 18 spacing, and in the future, if I do a north-south orientation like this, I'm definitely going to do a 5 and 2 spacing, because the cotton can use a lot more space in between them because these are crowding each other a little bit, and there's way too much room in between them. So 5 foot would be sufficient for the row spacing, and 2 foot would be more than plenty for the plant spacing. I don't know if that'll change if I do an east-west orientation. Probably not. I think I'm probably just going to go with a 5 and 2 regardless. And now I'm going to go through and get rid of all these little straggler plants and some of the other stuff that I'm just going to have to pull by hand. And cotton will be nice and clean and ready to fruit. Man, cotton just looks so much nicer after getting weed eaten. Look how clean that looks. Look at that. Look how much more light they're getting. It's a shame I had to kill most of the vines over here. I don't think any of these guys survived. Yeah, there's a couple. I think, maybe. But that's the price of doing business. Not all the pollinator plants can stay. Let's see. A little bit more of that skeletonizing caterpillar damage. Hopefully that was pre-existing and not new, but there does appear to be some additional damage from what I saw yesterday, but it doesn't look like it's spread anywhere as far as I can tell. So that's a good thing. I'll have to keep an eye on that and squish more cats. It's August the 12th. Just giving another quick little update. I've currently lost about 5 pounds of blood to mosquitoes, but I got my data for the day. I did not collect bull counts though, because I like having most of my blood. So, interesting updates for today. I have transplants that are finally blooming. This is row 2, this is 2 and 3. And over here on 3, we've got 3-2 and 3-4. And I think this guy had a bloom over here at 3-7. And down over here, as you can see, 4-2 has a bloom. So the transplants are starting to bloom. About, like, a little over half of them are blooming. And this is what Boll production looks like at the moment. And another thing I've been noticing this week is I've had a good bit of dropped bolls, like you can see over there. And it's specific plants that just seem to be dropping quite a number of bolls. Not an alarming amount, but they seem to be dropping about 10% of what they have. We've got one over there. There's one over here that's particularly bad. I think it was this one I already showed you. Yeah. But I can see it. A lot of the bolls are yellowing. You can sort of make it out in this one. But it's really bad, like, stuff like this. And it's a bit concerning, but that is a historic issue that Sea Island cotton had, was environmental conditions stressing the plants and forcing them to drop bolls. And they do that just to protect their existing crop. They realize they've taken on too many fruits, so they drop some of the least ideal ones, or I don't know how they decide it, but they drop a couple of their fruits in order to ensure that they can maintain a small subset, which is not ideal for production, but since I'm not making money off of this, it doesn't really matter too much. I just don't want them to drop all of their bolls. And we just recently had a pretty torrential downpour, so that might be part of it. The rain will knock some of the looser ones off, so they're just more obvious to me. And an excess of rain will cause cotton to drop its bolls. And a lack of rain will cause cotton to drop its bolls. It likes to drop bolls. As far as pollinators go, I've already got American Bumblebee recorded. I also have Cloudless Sulfur, Sleepy Orange, and Gulf Fritillary all observed pollinating. Let's see, I don't think I've seen a European honeybee here yet, which is surprising. And that might actually be one right there as I say that. Nope, I think that's a hoverfly. But, so, interesting diversity of pollinators. I did not expect so many butterflies. But I guess any port in a storm, the hayfield's been cut recently, so they might be a bit starved for nectar. Let's see, as far as pests go, the morning glories are starting to come up. There's tie vine. There's a little bit of cypress vine down there. They're starting to come up, and then they immediately go up and grow onto the cotton, which is annoying, and I gotta come out here and pull them off, because they grow like a foot a day. So I weed whacked out here on Tuesday, and came back out and had 5-foot vines growing up the side of the plants. So that's, what, 6 days? Not even. And I've got 5 foot of vine. And I've also noticed some stink bugs on the bolls, which is worrying because those could get real bad real fast. I don't think they're the brown marmorated stink bug, but I'll look it up. It's the ones that are yellow on the bottom. I think you see them a lot on like Cispania and stuff. So that could become an issue. Okay, so it's end of the day, same day. I came back out here because I remember what I was going to talk about. So, I have some particularly productive plants. They're basically the same ones I mentioned before in a previous video. It's 21A, 27 something, and 312, and 44. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this guy right here, 27. This one is particularly fecund. It's got quite a number of flowers on it this week, and it's got a good number of bolls. Same goes for this guy over here, 2-1. It's had, I believe, the most flowers out of any plant this week. Well, on the survey date. That's what I mean by week. And, you know, it's out here on the front of a row, and it's doing great, which is odd. Because typically when the plant's on the front of the row, they're super stressed and they do terrible. Like that one that's dead, and that one that's dead, and that one that's all tiny. But this one's not. This is like the 3rd largest plant out of the whole clump. Back over here we have 312 at the end of this row, and it is particularly fecund. It has had upwards of 8 flowers for 3 weeks now, consistently, which is kind of crazy. And it's really only lost 1 boll. And over here on 4, we have that wolf plant I was talking about in a previous video. 4-4, and this is now the 2nd tallest plant in the whole plot on the unirrigated, unfertilized row. It's taller than everything but that plant right there, and it's only about an inch and a half off. So that's kind of ridiculous. But getting back to the drop bolls that I was talking about earlier, I dug through my data, and from what I was able to see, it appears that the plants that have a history of leaf chlorosis are the plants that are most likely to drop bolls. The 3 plants that dropped 4 or more bolls this week were the 3 plants with the strongest, or were 3 plants that all had a history of chlorosis. Only had 6 plants that I had documented chlorosis on, and 4 of those plants were the plants that were dropping bolls, 3 of which were the worst offenders, one of which was this guy right here who only dropped 1 boll. But chlorosis is, well, what you see here. It's yellowing. That's what chlorosis means. It's also this. And this is what I've been previously documenting. This yellowing, these light whitish patches around the axial veins. And This plant had a very early history of it, and it's now showing chlorosis again, and it's very strongly dropping bolls. And over here you can see this plant is demonstrating chlorosis as well, and it's dropping bolls. Only one though. This plant is actually not demonstrating that much chlorosis, but it's one of the stronger boll droppers. What else? Where was the other one? I think it was 1, 4, 5, and 6. Look over here. We got a smidge of chlorosis on that leaf. Same there. Same there. So that was the other thing that I noticed too, is that all of the plants that were dropping bolls seem to be isolated together. Usually 3 or 4 plants all in one place, except on row 4 where it was just one plant. So it's interesting. I think it's some sort of micronutrient deficiency that I haven't quite identified, because it seems to be, it happened when it was dry, and now it's happening when it's wet. So it's not related to soil moisture, which is typically what boll dropping is related to in the literature. So I think it's a deficiency in some soil micronutrient. I'm going to have to look into that. Yeah, that's about it for the cotton.